Could be worth a try. Eels tend to be more active at night, relying on smell rather than sight to find food. I use a concoction of guts and offal to draw them in. Eels have a phenomenal ability to sense blood. My two rods are each equipped with an electronic alarm, primed to go off if something makes a grab for the bait. I don't have to wait long. If there's flesh on offer, it seems these animals are into it like starved piranhas. With some fresh roadkill on the end of my line, I've hooked my first longfin eel. Even with a small one, I have to take special care, because these fish have poisonous blood. The serum contains a neurotoxin that can kill dogs. And just a splash into my eye or a cut as I try to unhook it could land me in serious trouble.
Doesn't feel like a normal fish at all. Very, very smooth skin. They do actually have scales, but they're embedded under a layer of skin. Not very big eyes. They don't really use their eyes to hunt, but they do use smell. And you can see what looks like a pair of horns on the front of the head there.
In fact, these structures are tubes that funnel water into enlarged nasal chambers. The eel's sense of smell is even more sensitive than that of a great white shark. Having zeroed in, an eel grabs its prey with powerful jaws that bristle with hundreds of teeth.
Going against wind.
Well, you can see why people consider these to be very similar to snakes, even though they are technically fish.
There are plenty of eels here, but nothing over 3 feet long. Leaving legends aside, I wonder if science can shed any light on the question of size. Just how big, in theory, could this animal grow? Inside the skull of a dead eel may seem like a strange place to look for an answer. But Dr. Don Jellyman is the world authority in these animals, and he knows exactly what he's after.
So this is the brain, the spinal cord, and this little otolith sits in a small sac just in the back here, and it's part of the balancing system. So that's what we're after, Jeremy. That little bone there holds the key to a lot of the life history of the eel, its age, its growth rate.
Once magnified, this tiny ear bone reveals the growth history of the fish.
So is that the same sort of principle as counting the rings on a tree, something like that?
It is.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same.
A 2 to 3 foot eel can be 30 years old. But amazingly, this is just a youngster.
What's the oldest they might be, do you think? Any conjectures?
Well, the oldest that I've aged is 105 years old. And from that lake, the average age at which the females migrated was 93 years. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
One thing I've been thinking about is this mention in Captain Cook's journals about he was told about something that was snake-like and 8 feet long. Would one of these be capable of growing to 8 feet, do you think, in ideal conditions?
Yes, it's quite likely in the wild that they would have grown to a very, very large size like that.
Wow,
I wouldn't dismiss that.
So that could be a reliable report. And at that length, how much is that going to weigh, roughly?
They're well over 100 pounds at that stage.
Right.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yes, that's a big fish.
Yeah?
It's a seriously big
Okay,
fish.
so that Captain Cook report, it could have been one of these?
It could well have been. It might be of interest just to have a look inside it. So we'll just do a run up through here. So, oh, there is something in here.
That's the stomach, is it?
That's the stomach
that's
there.
That's quite full, isn't it?
Just take a peek. I'm rather interested to know what this has got in it.
With toxic blood oozing out of the eel's body, I'm careful to wash my hands.
Aha.
Is that another eel?
It's another eel. Yes.
Ooh.
It's well digested.
Yeah.
Yes, so they can be quite cannibalistic. They're just well adapted to taking those opportunities as they arise. If there's tucker there, they're into it. Yeah.
My photo fit of Captain Cook's monster is starting to take shape. It's a fish with real nerve, guided by the nose of a bloodhound and armed with hundreds of close-packed teeth. It can live for more than a century and potentially at least grow to 8 feet long. It also happens to have toxic blood and a taste for its own kind. But is it truly dangerous? To find out, I've booked myself onto a popular radio chat show.
Radio Southland's 96.4 FM. I'm Matt Rutherford, talking with well-known angler Jeremy Wade, who's really interested in hearing your stories about long-fin eels. So give us a call on 21889610.
I'm looking for evidence of aggression, and the lines are soon buzzing.
An eel came and latched onto the deer carcass, and we had a wrestling match for that.
Trying to measure her, she latched onto my finger. When I looked down, I was quite a surprise. It's quite a large black eel.
It would have to have been, 2 metres and as round as a man's
The
thigh.
end of my finger and being stripped back to the bone.
There are some monsters, there's no question of that.
I was prepared for tales of ducklings swallowed whole, but it seems that some eels strike at much larger prey.
Yeah, I took my dog Sam down to the river and we were playing with a ball. I was throwing it and he was bringing it back to me, and I threw it this one time and I heard him going for it. I could hear something going on, but I couldn't see him. He just disappeared under the water.
I'm still taking note when a man calls in to tell me about some sheep that were eaten alive.
What was happening? The sheep were falling into the river and turning around and trying to get back out again. But before they could get out, these eels were attacking them from behind and going in the back passage of the sheep. Until they were pulling the intestines out and going right inside the animal and getting right up to the liver and that before it actually ceased to live.
Then, to top it all, the story of a man who went skinny dipping.
This rather large eel come up and grabbed them in a very peculiar sort of a place.
Right, I think I'll get your address there, possibly. Yeah.
Yes, and it ended up putting him in hospital.
So this chap who was hospitalised, how can I put this delicately, was he missing anything when he got out of hospital, or was he just
I
patched
think he was
out?
all right when he got out of hospital, but he might have been cross-eyed for a while. So.
Okay.
My respect for these longfins is growing by the minute, so I'll definitely take care when I'm out there trying to get my own hands-on experience.
And mate, beware. Just be careful. Eel wrestling is not a good sport for tourists.
Okay, thanks for the warning.
Stick to bungee jumping.
Going on the radio has really helped me to tap into local knowledge and very quickly get an accurate sense of what this predator is capable of. But since coming here, I've also tracked down an old newspaper report that describes a terrifying assault on a young girl. This appears to be a very clear example of an eel deliberately trying to kill a human. In 1971, 8-year-old Carol Davis wandered into a stream on her father's property. For several days previously, large eels had been attacking Mr. Davis's ducks. Then, for reasons that aren't clear, one of them decided to have a go at Carol. The idea that an eel could drag a girl into deep water is entirely possible. This is a fish that can actually swim backwards with real power. Carol's horror story has really concentrated my mind.
Not only was she attacked in shallow water, her ordeal also happened in broad daylight. It makes me wonder what would happen to me under similar conditions.
It's not just dark underground caves where you find eels lurking.
I'm in a wildlife park where I know there are half a dozen big longfins. I'm not yet ready to try this out in the wild, where if things went wrong, I'd be miles from any help. Nonetheless, there's no such thing as a tame eel, and I've already heard enough to put me on edge. A splash of longfin blood on your eyes or lips can cause inflammation for several days. But how much would it take to kill you? The answer right after this. Just 3 teaspoons of longfin blood has enough toxin to kill a person. I'm in New Zealand, on the trail of an alleged man-eater described 2.5 centuries ago by Captain Cook. Was he just spun a yarn by a local chief, or could there be giant eels here capable of preying on humans?
to be more prepared. Settled. Tell truth, aside. Fear no more. Tell truth, aside. You worry. Now. Target confirmed. All is fair in war.
Listen up.
Tell truth, aside. Unstoppable. Tell truth, aside. Wouldn't hurt to be more prepared. Wind Rider. extra supplies. Tell truth, I can take it.
Leave it to me.
You're wide open. Break. Bide the time. Time to fight back. Bide the time. Bide the time. For emergencies. Time to fight back. Time to fight back. Bide the time. Retreat to advance.
Before heading into the wilderness and doing this for real, I'm testing the water in a wildlife park, where there are half a dozen hefty eels. Their mouths are lined with hundreds of backward-pointing teeth, and the ones in here are certainly big enough to grab an ankle or a hand.
I'm treading in sort of roots here. The trouble is they're going to be lurking right in there. I don't want to get my toes nipped.
After a couple of nervy encounters, I decide to push my luck.
I've actually got one right here. There we go. Whoa! Short and dramatic. It's my first real contact with one of these big longfin eels.
Clearly, well-fed eels like these just aren't aggressive. But I'm not fooling myself, they'll be so placid in the wild. In New Zealand's South Island, I leave the beaten track and push into the mountains. Some of the biggest eels mentioned in historical records were caught from deep lakes in the interior. And this is where I'm focusing my search for a monster. On Lake Manapuri, in what feels like the middle of nowhere, I first join Evan Brunton, a man who tracks and catches eels for a living. There are parts of this lake that plunge to more than 1/4 of a mile deep. Room enough for a monster to hide in, even today.
So we've actually got over 1,500 feet in the middle. I mean, that's